Hello and welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl, and we're continuing our Total Warhammer 3 faction focus, looking at the possible lords and heroes that could be added into the various factions in the game, especially with the release of the roadmap, where we've seen that there is a 12-month roadmap adding lords and heroes to various factions, along with reworks, and the fact that Harry the Hammer was just released as a legendary hero for Warriors of Chaos. Now, I've had a huge interest in Warhammer Fantasy Battle since 1992, collecting armies and playing on the tabletop, and I've really enjoyed all the Total Warhammer games. Now, we're doing this in alphabetical order, and we've reached Nurgle. And for those that watched the Khorne or the Norscan video, you'll know that once we get into the Chaos factions, it's proving a little bit more challenging. Mainly because of the way the factions are currently split up and laid out in the game. So in terms of picking who could be added into each faction, it's not that easy. But with the other factions, we are trying to stick to either the most famous characters in the lore, or the ones that had rules or were in an army book. And that's because there's so much lore out there. There's decades of lore, hundreds of books, that there's lots of characters that you could fill a list up with. So now we're at Nurgle, and just like Khorne, we're trying, where possible, to stick to famous demon characters that were either in the Demon's book or were in the lore. Now, obviously, we've currently got Kugath Plaguefather in the game. Now, and he was in the 8th edition book. And when we look at the other possible lords, it's not that easy when it comes to demon ones. Okay, so you've got Alcor the Defiler. He was a demon prince. He's quite famous for corrupting large parts of Athel Loren, so maybe there's something in there. Eventually, he was defeated by the Wood Elves, but Wood Elves combined with Khorne, no less. I think that's an interesting one as a Nurgle demon prince in the faction. Outside of that, it becomes way more challenging. I mean, the one that everyone is kind of clamoring for is Temurkhan. Obviously, there was an entire book from Forge World with Temurkhan. But Temurkhan, known as the Maggot Lord, he was still a champion of Nurgle, known as a son of the Great Kurgan. So where does Temurkhan fit? Does he fit in Nurgle? Does he fit in Norscan? Does he fit in Warriors of Chaos? I think there's debate around that, but he is clearly a mortal champion, not a demon champion. You've also got the Glotkin in there, the Befouled Brothers of Nurgle. That was a model that still exists today, but really came out in the end times. And we've not seen any end times content in the game so far. So that will be an interesting one. Does he go in or not? Not sure I see the Glotkin going in there. So it's difficult in terms of lords. All of them have potential. I think the Glotkin is an interesting model. I think Alcor sticks with the demon theme. And Temurkhan is clearly Nurgle as it gets. It's just a case of where they decide to go with this. We've got Warriors of Chaos with the different flavors of Chaos dedicated in there with Valkyr and Sigvald, for example. So why doesn't that happen in Norsca? In which case you could see Temurkhan, but then where does Valnir the Reaper sit? Or do they all sit in Nurgle? I don't know. It's a really difficult one at the moment. They don't have any current heroes. If you look at heroes, though, we've got 3 there. All of them had rules at some point and models. Epidemius, he's an 8th edition hero, as is Horticulus Slimux, or Slimux, however you want to pronounce that one. Epidemius, though, would be the one I would choose. Essentially, Epidemius is he's the demon side, so he's a plague bearer demon, essentially a herald of Nurgle. So as heralds of Nurgle, they fit as heroes. So Epidemius would definitely be my choice if we're sticking to that demon side. And I do prefer him over Horticulus Slumux. You've got the Magath Riders, again, another end times thing, but the Magath Riders, of which there were 3, how would you introduce them into the game? Do you introduce them as 3 different heroes, or 3 heroes that have to go together, or are they one unit? You know, it could be like a legendary unit in that way. They rode special mounts, which are Pox Magaths, hence Magath Riders. You got Augut's Demon Spew, Blurb Rot Spawned, and Morbidex Twispawn. They were the 3 essentially that made up these Magath Riders. So, you know, there's an interesting take there, but again, is end times content. So, you know, Alcor and Temurk, you know, Alcor definitely, Temurkan and Glotkin, Temurkan more than Glotkin. I just don't see end time stuff at the moment appearing in the game, so Temurkan would be more likely. But the Glotkin is a pretty cool looking model and would look interesting in the game. Epidemius as that sort of plague bearer herald who would kind of fit with the demon element of Nurgle as a legendary hero. That's my take on it. Like I say, Chaos is a bit tricky in terms of where people sit, because, you know, is it just demon? Is it just mortal? What happens when they become a mortal dedicated to a particular god? Because Warriors of Chaos and Norska and demons right now are kind of made up quite differently in how it's been approached. Hope you've enjoyed the video, though. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below. And as always, if you want to see more content, please hit the subscribe button. Totally free for you to do, but it means a lot for me, so thank you for that in advance. And if you disagree with what I've said here, or there's other characters or heroes that you think should be in the Nurgle roster, then let me know in the comments down below and we can have a discussion about who and why you should think they should be part of the Nurgle faction in Total Warhammer 3. You've been watching The Ghost Owl, and I'll see you all very soon.